Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today.
Welcome to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Hello, everybody. How is it going today? I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. I am having quite a good day. The sun is shining where I'm at, and I'm feeling good. A little bit tired, but this always perks up my day, so I'm super excited to be sharing more feel-good, positive stories with you. I hope you're enjoying them lately, because I feel like there's been so many good ones. I know there's a lot of craziness happening in our world. As I say, it's very chaotic right now, but I just find that there are still so many feel-good stories to be shared, and I love sharing them. I find that during this whole pandemic especially, there's been more kindness than ever. People are just going above and beyond to help each other out and to show kindness and show each other support and do what they can for the environment and communities and just our world altogether. So it's super cool to be finding all these stories and being able to share them with you, and I hope you just enjoy them as much as I do. But I will stop rambling on. Let's jump into it. Guess what I'm going to start off with today? A positive story about COVID-19. I love starting off the day with one of these stories because I think we all need that positive little burst of positivity when it comes to talking about the pandemic. So yes, I have a very positive story about COVID-19. They are saying that a single dose of the COVID-19 vaccine has been proved successful in preclinical study, and this is the human safety trials have begun. So it's a safe single-shot vaccine. It's been successfully trialed. It's the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. It's called AD26. It was produced using a common cold virus, an organism that stimulates our immune system. So in 52 of the primates, the robust antibody activity neutralized the viral functions and properties of COVID-19. So this study says the optimal AD26 vaccine included robust neutralizing antibody responses and provided complete or near complete protection in bronchoalveolar lavage and nasal swabs following COVID-19 challenge. So it says this protection aspect is critical. AD26 produced complete or near complete protection in the respiratory tract, a theorized necessity for the COVID-19 vaccine, since that is the principal way in which the virus has spread across the globe, of course. It was clear that the observed antibody response was allocated by the vaccine, while also correlating with the efficiency rating of the defense following administration. So these results suggested that the protective effects observed were due to the vaccine and not the monkey's immune system. So they say these data demonstrates robust single-shot vaccine protection against COVID-19 in non-human primates. So the optimal AD26 vector-based vaccine for COVID-19, termed AD26.CoV2S is what they're calling it, is currently being evaluated in clinical trials. And that was from a Harvard team. So it's funded by the U.S. government, and the drug maker said it had started early-stage human trials in the U.S. and Belgium, and it would test its vaccine candidate in more than 1,000 healthy adults that were aged 18 to 55 years old, as well as older adults as well. So the authors noted that the single-shot vaccine would likely be the perfect solution for the pandemic, but admitted a 2-dose administration would produce a stronger immune defense. So there you go, some positivity, some good news about COVID-19. Now I have some more good news about just health in general. There is a new blood test for prostate cancer, and it's producing a 99% accuracy rating. So the precision that has never been before been achieved for a blood test of this particular kind of cancer. So the test can determine the exact stage and progression of the cancer, which also reduces the need for invasive biopsies and scans. So the team behind all of this was involving the researchers from Nottingham Trent University and University Hospitals Leicester NHS Trust. Then they determined that changes in the patient's immune system could be examined through blood markers, specifically white blood cells. So by developing a series of sophisticated computeral tools for analyzing these samples, the team can now determine the presence and stage of the cancer at unparalleled rates of accuracy. Pretty cool. So Professor Graham Pockley, the director of Nottingham Trent University's, the Cancer Research Center, he says our approach not only identifies presence of the disease, but also crucially its clinical significance. We can also do this with higher accuracy than current approaches. This will spare men from having unnecessary invasive procedures and help doctors to decide whether to watch or actively manage patients even when they are asymptomatic. So with an estimated 1.8 million new cases in 2018 alone, prostate cancer is the fourth most common cancer in the world and the second most common form among men in the United States, a country that sees almost about 200,000 diagnoses every single year. It is the most common form of cancer for men in the UK, with roughly about 47,000 diagnoses annually as well. So the cancer can be treated successfully in early stages, but it's very difficult to detect. So the standard blood marker, unusual levels of protein called PSA, will appear normal in 15% of people who have the disease, and so it's not a reliable indicator. So this new test could be saving lives, but also save millions of dollars in treatments and patient care, stemming from catching the cancer in early stages and reductions in the numbers of more expensive invasive procedures. Pretty cool. So there are two very positive health stories I want to share with you. Now I'm going to be sharing you something pretty awesome about the environment. So this is about how Costa Rica slowed, stopped, then reversed deforestation in their rainforests. Okay, so in the 1970s and the 80s, Costa Rica had the highest deforestation rates in Latin America, but the next few decades saw the country completely halt their forest loss, initiate replanting and conservative efforts, and regrow almost all of their lost tree cover. So their methods have set up the most successful forest management model on Earth. It's leading the way in the fight against human-accelerated climate change, and Costa Rica's success story of sustainable forestry was strengthened by a simple strategy of valuing forests by paying for their restoration through their payment for environmental service. So they call it the PES. So in the 1940s, about 75% of the country was shrouded in rainforest, cloud forest, and mangrove. But over the next 40 years, it estimated that as much as half of all the trees were cut down. Intensive logging bans were instituted in 1996, and then PES programs arriving the year after. So PES conservation strategies mean that the forest is essentially treated like a utilities company, with companies or beneficiaries of the resources and processes provided by the rainforest paying the forest for their service of resource. So, for example, a stand of old trees sit on a farmer's acre who knows he could chop them down and plant coffee, chocolate, bananas, or other tropical or agriculture products. Instead, he receives money from a fund which businesses and citizens pay into so that he can afford to keep the forest intact. So now 60% of the country is forested once again, and every single year, the Costa Rican Forest Fund collects $33 million, which it uses to make sure that the forests of Costa Rica, which sit on the privately owned land, are taken care of. So $500 million has been paid out to landowners and farmers over the last 20 years. So it's about 2.4 million acres, or 1 million hectares of rainforest, and incentivization the planting of 7 million new trees. So they're saying people in Costa Rica receive a lot of money because of tourism, and that changes the incentives of land use. That's because almost 3 million tourists come to the country's national parks and other protective areas, which cover a quarter of the nation and are home to 500,000 documented plants and insect species. So that's including iconic animals like the sloth and the great green macaws. So employing 200,000 people, the tourism sector generated $4 billion in revenue last year, encompassing luxury beachside resorts, a little Argo tourism sports like their Pedro Garcia's farm, and that took advantage of the PES opportunity to transform the 7-hectare cattle ranch into a pristine slice of Costa Rican rainforest with all native trees and wild agriculture products that provide homes for the macaws, the poison dart frogs, and lots more iconic species. So Costa Rica's PES system has been adopted by other nations across the world in recognition of its success. So it's not just happening in Costa Rica, but other places are also looking into this and doing it as well. So we've been working together for the last 3 years. We look forward to implementing all of this and possibly expanding the scope into the future. So we have learned that the pocket is the quickest way to get to the heart. It's true. So as Costa Rica's Minister for the Environment and Energy, he says that while placing a dollar value on the natural world may seem dirty and unethical, it's the best incentive for people to work to conserve the environment. There you have it. All right, it is time for a little bit of a break, but when we get back, don't go anywhere. I have a really, really cool story about how a woman got reunited with her lost teddy bear, and this is all thanks to Ryan Reynolds. You know the celebrity Ryan Reynolds. So you don't want to miss this story. It's going to be coming up later in the episode, as well as another story about 2 South African women, and they took on a mission to tackle plastic along one of the worst rivers for ocean-bound pollution. It's a pretty awesome story. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo, in case you forgot. Okay, we are back sharing more feel-good, positive stories with you to hopefully brighten up your day and give you a positive vibe. It's all about those good, positive stories, especially with all the chaos going on in our world right now. I love this podcast to just bring some happiness and cheer to everybody's day. So let me jump right back into some feel-good stories for you. Now, I mentioned before the break a story about 2 South African women who took on a mission to tackle plastic along one of the worst rivers for ocean-bound pollution. So let me share that story. So these 2 women, Santi and Ursula, they neither have previous experience in the plastic recycling or waste management industry, but with a shared vision of plastic-free rivers and oceans, they decided to put their heads together to work towards a sustainable solution to the plastic pollution problem in Cape Town. So they co-founded Sunshine Cleaning to address plastic pollution with their neighborhoods that are adjacent to the rivers and canals to prevent such plastic from entering the rivers and ultimately, of course, ending up in the ocean. So they say our research led us to the Blue Downs Canal and River System right under our noses in Cape Town, one of the most beautiful cities in the world. So the Netherlands Ocean Cleanup Project, this begun to collect plastics from rivers, identified this particular canal as being amongst the top 1,000 most severely plastic polluted river systems on the planet. So this pair realized that in order to achieve a sustainable solution, they would need to gain an understanding of the types, volumes, and condition of plastic waste that makes its way to settle on the banks of their canal. So they would need some expert help, and they found it in South Africa's largest waste management company. They say that 2 weeks into our COVID-19 lockdown, we contacted EJ of EnviroServe, and then Santi had met a waste management seminar earlier in the year, and EJ's positive open engagement with us and proactive attitude quickly resulted in a plan of action for cleanup and waste assessment of the Blue Downs Canal banks set for the 18th of July. So coincidentally, it would fall on the 10th anniversary of Mandela Day. So they then engaged Cape Town officials to obtain the necessary permissions, as well as the Blue Downs community, to ensure their buy-in, involvement, and blessing for the cleanup. They say notwithstanding their challenges of trying to feed hundreds of people arising as a result of the COVID-19 crisis, the Blue Downs Community Women Action Group and local ward councillor Jerome Fitz received us with open arms and gave us their full support in this system. So they say following a week of some of the most extreme Cape heat, these volunteers were blessed that day with the most spectacular Cape Town weather anyone could ask for. They said it was sunshine, blue skies, with snow still visible on the mountains in the far distance. So they were masked, sanitized, and keeping necessary social distancing, but all 28 volunteers came together from EnviroServe, Blue Downs Women Action, and the Neighborhood Watch. They also offered security from the area because it's just known for gang activities. And they joined the ward councillor and Santi and Ursula to collect 375 kg of plastic waste from the banks of the canal that morning. So that's 826 pounds of plastic waste. They say the community women action ladies supplied piping hot coffee and sandwiches, and even the Neighborhood Watch joined in picking up plastic while ensuring our safety. So they now await the results of the sorting and assessment of the waste from EnviroServe, which also generously provided bags, gloves, and masks. And that will inform Sunshine Cleaning's next step on their journey to save their little corner of the globe from ocean-going plastic pollution. And they wanted to end this off saying, like Nelson Mandela said, it always seems impossible until it's done. Pretty cool story of a community coming together to help the environment, so I just thought I would share that with you. Now I'm going to share this story that I mentioned about a woman who was reunited with her lost teddy bear. And this is all thanks to Ryan Reynolds. Now, this wasn't just any lost teddy bear. This teddy bear contained her late mother's voice. She calls it the mama bear, of course. So losing a parent, of course, is one of the most painful parts of life. One of the most painful things you can go through. So no matter how old we are, when they leave us, it can be a very heart-wrenching experience. So all of our memories that are left with them and all the happy reminders of their love, is very valuable treasures. And that's why this teddy bear was so special to Mara Serrano. So Mara Serrano feels a very strong attachment to this special teddy bear, that she has her mom's voice in it. And she tragically lost this teddy bear in a recent move to a new apartment. So it's a Build-A-Bear plush toy. It didn't cost a lot, but it does contain the recording of her mother's voice telling her that she loved her and she was proud of her. And she called the bear Mama Bear. And it was in a backpack that contained different electronics like an iPad, a Nintendo Switch, and all these different things. And that bag was stolen during the move. And she's 28 years old. She was absolutely heartbroken, not for the gadgets or all the electronics, but for her Mama Bear. So she posted online about the item. It was lost in Vancouver, Canada, and the story behind it was very cool, and that's what kind of got all the viewers' attention in a big way. So let me give you a little bit more of a background story about her mother. Her name is Marilyn, and she was diagnosed with cancer 10 years ago. And she gave her daughter the bear as a gift back in 2017. And as her cancer progressed until her death last June, the gift felt even more special. She says, the bear was basically the last reminder of the mom that I knew. It was her voice that I remembered growing up. So, welcome to social media and the internet. It did its thing, and her search went viral, and she was out searching. She put up posters, she dug through dumpsters, communicated with others online, following any leads that she could. And then the actor Ryan Reynolds, who is a native of British Columbia. He posted a plea for the safe return. He says, "I think we all need this bear to come home." And it was just a message that also offered a huge incentive for the thief, saying a $5,000 reward, no questions asked. So that's literally what he tweeted. He said, "Vancouver, $5,000 to anyone who returns this bear to Mara. 0 questions asked. I think we all need this bear to come home." And he shared a picture of it on Twitter. And of course, that went very viral. So then just this past Tuesday night, her bear came home. She says, "I'm not going to lie, I kind of buckled. As soon as I saw him pull her out of the bag, I just started sobbing, and I grabbed her out of his hands, and I just could not let her go." She, it's a bit of a modern day miracle that would have never happened without the wonders of social media, and especially Ryan Reynolds tweeting that message out to the world. But she got an email from a Good Samaritan who told her that they had the bear, and though she was a little bit skeptical, she set up a safe meeting space with a member of the media also present as well. And it wasn't a scam. 2 unnamed people brought her the bear safe and sound. She is getting married next summer, and the bear is going to have a very special seat at the ceremony, the one that her mother would have sat in. So this bear is just very, very close to her heart, and she's keeping Mama Bear close and sending thanks to those who helped. So she tweeted out a very excited message of gratitude to Ryan Reynolds, of course, for helping out with getting Mama Bear back home. But after having the wired the money to the person who returned the bear, he actually went to Twitter to share the news with his followers. He said, "In happier news, thank you to everyone who searched high and low. To the person who took the bear, thanks for keeping it safe. Vancouver is awesome." So there you go. So if you actually want to go see more about this story, you can go to CTV News and the stolen teddy bear with Ryan Reynolds. You'll see a bunch of information come up with it and a little video that has Mara in it as well. She just explains the story, and it's pretty cool to see. So go head over to CTV News if you want to check that out. Alrighty, well, it's time for another break, but when we get back, I have some really cool stories about animals, actually. I found kind of a series of different animal stories that I'm excited to share with you today, including a story how a Red Lobster employee saved a very rare blue lobster, and they found a zoo to adopt it. It's a pretty unique story, so don't go anywhere. I'm going to be sharing that near the end of the episode, as well as how a lost puppy tracked down his vet's office, and helping himself get home. This dog is a genius. You're not going to want to miss that one either. So stay tuned. I'll be right back to share more fun, feel-good stories with you.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast. We are on the last stretch of today's episode, and I'm going to fill this last stretch with some stories about some animals. So all you animal lovers out there, buckle in. We are on a road of really cool and touching animal stories to finish off today's episode. Now, I'm going to start with the animal who may rival dogs as a man's best friend. Can you guess what kind of animal it is? It's a pig. If you didn't guess a pig, it's a pig. So dogs may be considered man's best friend, but I guess this new research says that pigs actually rival other pets in their adoration of human companionship. Pretty interesting, right? So miniature pigs became very popularized as pets when the public began seeing them living in homes with celebrities. So if you don't know, some celebrities have these miniature pigs in their homes. So Miley Cyrus, David Beckham, Paris Hilton, George Clooney, whose pet pig Max, he lived for 18 years. So as soon as, of course, the celebrities were having pigs as pets, everybody kind of wanted to have pigs as pets. So according to Hungarian researchers from the Lorland University in Budapest, pigs are as trainable as dogs, and unless they have a problem to solve, they turn to us for support in the same way that canine companions do as well. They say the similarities we found between the two species point to their similar capacities for engaging in communicative interactions with humans. The Family Pig Project, this was launched in 2017 at the Department of Ethology in Budapest, and the animals were raised in a similar environment as family dogs from as nearly as 6 to 8 weeks of age, and it provides the basis for unique comparative investigations between these two species. They say dogs, already as puppies, are known to be uniquely skillful in communicating with us, even without any specific training. We were curious whether family pigs also exhibit similar communication signals as dogs, and whether they spontaneously rely on human cues. So these animals were observed behaving with experimental and without the presence of food, and also after they had been fed. They say in the presence of food, both pigs and dogs orientated more towards the experimenter. They touched her more often and looked at her face more frequently. So it's interesting difference though. Only dogs looked up at the human's face when they did not expect to receive food. So in the second test, the animals were allowed to choose between two hiding locations several different times. The experimenter always pointed at the one that contained the hidden piece of food. And without having been trained for this, only dogs followed the pointing and pigs did not. Pigs did not choose randomly either, but they rather followed a side preference strategy, going to the same hiding location over and over again. So the dogs are known to look at humans in a problem-solving context to establish joint attention and initiate communicative interactions from an early age. But they wanted to find out if this is their specialty or whether other companion animals do the same. So they say similar socialized wolves and cats communicate less with humans than dogs in the same problem-solving context. But maybe it's because wolves are not domesticated and cats are not a social species. So we designed a study to compare dogs' behavior with that of another domestic and social species, which is, of course, the pig. So the pigs, which are renowned for their intelligence and their cleanliness, believe it or not, they can live up to 20 years. They can also quickly become loving companions and get along with cats. Some fans of those porcupine friends have also claimed that they are more suited to being kept as domestic animals than dogs. So they say dogs are naturally more dependent on and cooperative with humans. This explains the unique success in interacting with the humans. But the study was published in Animal Cognition just earlier this month, if you want to go read some more about it. But it's the first to analyze similarities and differences in family dogs and pigs' interactions with humans. They also say we use the so-called unsolvable task paradigm, where the animal first faces a problem that he can solve, in our case an easy to open box with food inside, and then after some trials the problem becomes unsolvable because the box is securely closed. So when the box was first in the room without food in it, pigs and dogs performed similar human-oriented behaviors, but the difference appeared when we put the food in the box and opening it became an exciting challenge. Pigs were faster than dogs already in solving the task and getting the reward. This might be due to their manipulative capacities, but when the task became unsolvable, dogs turned to humans more than before. So in contrast, pigs performed less human-oriented behaviors, but they were more persistent than dogs in trying to solve the task, which may reflect their predisposition to solving problems independently. So there you have it. If you want to get a dog for a house pet or you want to get a pig, it looks like both options are great. So if you are somebody that's trying to convince your parents or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your significant other to get a puppy, try to ask them if you can get a miniature pig, and maybe they'll go for that one. All right, so now I'm going to share that story with you about the Red Lobster employee that saved this rare blue lobster and how the restaurant found a zoo to adopt it. Okay, so this is a rare blue lobster, which I haven't even heard about, but It will live out its life at an aquarium rather than ending up on a dinner plate, and this is all thanks to the workers in Ohio. So while getting ready for their shift, these Red Lobster employees recognized the rarity of the blue shell on one of the lobsters. So only 1 in every 2 million animals has the blue correlation, which is a result of genetic anomaly. So after discovering this rare creature, they named it Claude, and then the restaurant chain's mascot, and they contacted the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and they reached out to the Akron Zoo. So both the Akron Zoo and the Red Lobster belong to a conservation partnership called Seafood Watch. So this program is run by the Monterey Bay Aquarium in California, and it strives to help consumers and businesses choose seafood that is farmed sustainably and fished in ways to support a healthy ocean. So after this news, the staff at the Ohio Zoo sprang into action to prepare a new home for Claude. They say Claude is acclimating to his new home at the Akron Zoo in a special tank that has been dubbed Claude's Man Cave by his care team. They say blue lobsters are very, very rare. So just 2 days later, they did post an amusing update after the lobster was examined by a vet. They said, "It's a girl. Claude is now Claudia," and they proclaimed the man cave is now a she shed. Pretty funny, but it is a pretty cool looking lobster. It is literally blue. So the next few months, I guess, are very critical for Claudia as she prepares for her annual molt, which is a time that is very vulnerable for lobsters of any color. So let's play for Claudia for her annual molt. And if you want to go check out this really unique lobster, go online. You can see lots of pictures of it. It is definitely something I don't think I would want on my plate. But it's super cool to look at, so go check out Claudia on the internet. I'm sure she's going to be social media famous really quick. Now, I mentioned a very, very smart puppy who tracked down his vet's office to help him get home. How incredible is that? So, he's only a 5-month-old pup, and he was savvy enough to find his way back home, and he was certainly clever because he found its vet's office. So, this is just insane. He showed up just wanting some help. So, this is in Thailand, and they posted a surveillance video of the little dog showing up at the doorstep, and it waited until someone let it inside, and this puppy was barking at the door of the office where it had been receiving monthly vaccinations since it was 1 month old. And according to the vet who shared this video on Facebook, says luckily the vet office recognized their patient and reunited the pet with its owner. So they were just separated for about 15 hours, but the owner and the dog were very happy to see each other when they got reunited. So the dog is very cute and very, very smart. And there is literally surveillance footage of this dog showing up, waiting patiently outside of its vet's office. How this dog figured out how to get to the vet's office, only 5 months old, after he'd just been doing some shots at the office, through, I guess, the 5-month time. But so incredible. Dogs are so smart. But apparently so are pigs. So I still say that if you're trying to convince somebody to let you get a puppy, maybe go for the miniature pig. Because I'm sure they might show up at their vet's office if they get lost. I'm not sure. But there you have it. There's now 2 house pets that you can vouch for. Pigs and dogs. Because they're both genius. Alright, well, that is all of these stories that I have to share with you today. I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode as much as I enjoyed sharing it. So thank you so much for listening to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. I love being here, so please do not forget to hit that subscribe button so that you are notified every single time I put out new episodes. Every single Monday and Thursday, I am here to share positive feel-good stories with you. I also update our social medias regularly. We got Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, so head over there, like and follow us on our social media pages. Please engage with me. Let me know if there's any stories or things that you want me to share. I would love to engage with you and share stories that you also want me to share too, because I would just love that. Please do not also forget to leave a 5-star review, because you know how much it helps and how much I love reading those reviews. So thank you so much. Stay happy, stay positive, and go convince your significant other to buy you a miniature pig, because I might do the same. Till next time, thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from social media news to marketing news, and even weird news, the GSMC Podcast Network has you covered. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast.